So in our presentation today, I'm going to cover a few things, just a little bit about Cadence, who we are, why we chose to partner with OpenText and do this presentation today in this webinar and demonstration. And then there's a few specific scenarios we're going to walk through. Student and employee records, public records requests, which is really quite in demand and popular in terms of what we do as a service provider and systems integrator. And then walking through document retention and disposition pertaining to both those student and employee records and that. So there's going to be a bit of a PowerPoint presentation just on about Cadence, and then we'll absolutely transition into what you're here for, which is the live demonstration. Questions, you can, as Jared mentioned, you can put them in the chat box, or if you do want to go through and ask them through your microphone, we can unmute you from the webinar side and then unmute on your own mic that way. So a bit about Cadence. We've been around since 2013, and in short, we just help organizations struggling with digital transformation. I started on the customer side first. I'll tell a quick story on that in a second. But basically, we're able to deliver our services virtually across North America, and have completed close to 80 projects at this point. We're aligned with three major players in the EIM space, the enterprise information management space, OpenText, of course, being one of them today. Where we do things like HR processes, educational processes. We use two products from them called Extended ECM and Intelligent Capture. And I'm going to talk a bit about today about how we can integrate some of the OpenText products with PowerSchool and how that can really start to aid your acceleration into record keeping for student and employee records. We're also partnered with Microsoft. They're a alliance partner with OpenText as well, in addition to SAP. So I know those may not be the topic of consideration today, but that does kind of preach to the ability for us to understand the gaps with other systems and why OpenText we feel is the best fit for the scenarios today. So briefly about Cadence, we started on the customer side. I went through from your shoes and was on an implementation at a public sector entity that went completely horribly wrong. The organization I was with that I worked in the IT department for had hired a partner of a software company that did not do a good job. We blew about $300,000 in 3 months. We had absolutely nothing that was useful, so we fired them. And firing them in the public sector is almost impossible to do. But we managed to kind of kick them out the door, did the project ourselves internally, and after that, kind of sat down and considered starting a firm, which is how Cadence was created. So that really lends into some of our values and lessons that I learned going through the dirty side of the project on the customer side. So we name resources on every project. We're not here to bait and switch people from the RFP stage where you're getting a high quality tier 1 resource proposed and swapping them out for a low quality resource later, or at worst a resource assignment pool where you don't know who you're getting tomorrow versus next week versus next month. We stay on budget. We're going to tell the truth even if it's difficult to hear. So digital transformation is about change. Change to a lot of people is a difficult thing. And we know there's a level of discomfort with that, but that is necessary in order to get you where you need to be. And lastly, we absolutely deliver. We get our clients to the finish line on a project. So just recapping what we're going to go through on the demonstration side of things, I'm going to show off the OpenText Extended ECM system for student and employee records. We're going to go into a bit on the legal hold side with public records requests, and then briefly into document retention and disposition, which really kind of wraps it all together. So jumping over to the web browser, Jared, just give me a hand raise or something, make sure that's working properly as well. Looks good, thank you. This is the OpenText Extended ECM system. This is a leading document and records management system ranked by both Gartner and Forrester. So this isn't just an opinion of a partner with OpenText. This is actually industry research based on them doing their white papers and everything that goes into that. As you log into the system, the real value of OpenText is it is essentially going to be that digital file room and that repository of all documents, records, and any information that your organization is guiding through. In your instance today, it's student records mostly, and also some employee records, of course. So as we kind of navigate around the system, the beauty of putting things into a content management system is the ability to search. So the search in here is just like Google. If you have words, or text inside of a file, inside of an email, inside of attachment that's attached to an email and filed into the system, it is going to come back in search results. So it's a full text search. So short story on that, we were doing some work with an organization and they were unable to find something that was stored on their file share. As a part of the demonstration, they had us load in 10 gigabytes of data into a system and they were going to, on the fly, ask us to find a search term. So they gave us the name of what happened to be a pesticide, typed it in the search index, in the search form, hit go, and the result came up. The manager or the CAO over there had a sticky note out and she said, hold on a second, please. I need to write down where you found that. And she wrote it down, sent the sticky note off to someone to run out of the room and go find that on their file share, which they were still using today. I asked her, why did you do that? What's the pain around that? And she said, we've been looking for that for a week. So simply just loading the data into a system like this gives you the ability to go through and do search, gives you the ability to go through and do that instantly, as well as the ability to go and do that from a legal discovery standpoint if you need to. I'm going to jump down into the student records area here that we've configured for the demonstration today and show you just a little bit about how we can accommodate student records in a system like OpenText Extended ECM. We are working with a higher education institute right now to do some online learning as well as the student record and employee record side of things. So there's a few tidbits from that implementation that you're going to see here today. In the system, there's a concept called workspaces. And workspaces is almost the digital representation of what would be that physical file folder that's sitting in some file room with my student record from 20 plus years ago, where all that information is in it. This workspace concept in OpenText enables you to do that all digitally and provision and permission access accordingly to portions of that file. So in the past, you hand that student record around. You're typically going to pull out specific pieces of that so that not everybody can see different physical copies of content that may be restricted. As you move into the digital world, what you're able to do is template everything inside of the student record workspace and actually assign different permissions to different locations. So we're able to actually file this information if we like in file folder structure like this. We're actually able to pile the information if you're not a filer, you're more of a piler type and you want to put everything in and just simply tag it with metadata. So in this instance, this is Bart Simpson's student record. Of course, there's a discipline file for Bart. And we have a bunch of health information. We don't want everybody that has access to other components of Bart's record to see health information. That may be something that's private. This may be immunization records. This may be incidents at school where he was down to the office because he was sick, or personal health information, allergies and such that need to be kept private from other folks. However, in the academic side of things, we may want a whole bunch of people, employees, staff, to be able to see things like Bart's transcript. So if we do want to see Bart's transcript, we're able to just click on that. We're going to get a little flyout on the right-hand side, which will show us the entire transcript. And the beauty of this is all of the text inside of this transcript is available in the search index as well. So as I drag and drop and load documents into the system, we're able to go and actually perform search on this information. Now, as a records manager, one of the things that you're going to do quite a bit is redactions. And you're able to actually go into here and perform redactions on the content. And we can pull this out on a full screen and actually go through and redact certain components of this either by searching text or going through and searching for a pattern. So we may want to take out addresses, cities. We may want to take out some information down here on the bottom around the learning results and some guiding principles that maybe isn't as relevant if we're going to release this information. So you're able to go through and do that right from within the web browser. You don't need to print this out, use the permanent marker like you used to. You don't need to open this out in Adobe, and we've seen organizations use the black highlighter, which really isn't redaction. It just kind of layers on top and doesn't really help anything. So another thing with Bart's file here is we're able to store all that metadata. Now, the creation of this student record doesn't necessarily have to be a manual task. So I'm going to go through and create one manually. But typically we automate this with something like PowerSchool or another system, where when a student is created in the other system, we do need a container or an area to store that content. So we will create that content into the content server, the OpenText system here. So I'm going to go through and create a new student. When we go to create a new student, there are 4 fields that we require right now. It's very easy to configure and add as many fields as we like here. And this is a component where we would typically integrate with another system, pull in that information, and have that information actually added to the metadata of a new student record that would be in the system. We're going to add in the birth date here. And we can add in any other information we like, address information, if we, an expected graduation year, all that can go in here. And some of that can be useful in records keeping purposes. Some states do require that records are kept permanently. So as we go ahead and create Marge here, if we open up the area for Marge, we can instantly see that we've assigned certain individuals, basically a team, to Marge's file here. So know that John's going to be the educational assistant, Jordan's actually one of the teachers as well as the principal, and Michelle's one of the teachers as well. So based on these roles here, we have 3 roles, EA, principal, and teacher. These roles will end up with specific access to the actual student record file. So out of these 4 areas, teachers may not be able to see all the health information, right? The principal will be able to see all areas, and the educational assistant can maybe only see academic information. So we're able to take those roles and really extrapolate that across the concept of the record and the workspace to create a very efficient template so that we're able to we don't have to go in there and assign things individually. If we combine that with an integration into a master student system, something like PowerSchool, we're able to really accelerate the ability to go through and do this. Now you're going to notice on all of these different student files we have here, we do have a records detail icon here. That's the green icon. And we are applying a retention schedule directly to, in this instance, Marge Simpson's student record that's permanent. See the highlights here under the column RSI. That's permanent, and that lets us actually ensure that this record is retained permanently. Now, if it's 7 years post-graduation is your retention schedule, absolutely this gets changed. And this will show up on a scheduled basis on the disposition side of things and get ready for destruction. The key to records management in any system, whether it's education or not, is not putting the onus on the users that are going to be entering the data. It has to be inherited from somewhere, or the rules have to be configured somewhere else so that takes place. All the student information shows here. So right now we don't have an address for Marge. We can add that in if we like, and we can see all other information. These metadata fields are going to be synced with that information that's likely stored in another system like PowerSchool. Any audit characteristics that have happened with Marge's record will show here. So everything pertaining to permission changes, records management changes, versions of documents, anything that goes in here is all going to show in the audit trail. And we're able to actually go through and perform those audits if necessary on who's touched what when and has content changed. So just to show a brief example of how we actually go through here and load in documents, I'm going to grab a transcript from another screen. I'm just going to drag and drop that here. And this is going to automatically be uploaded into the system. It's going to automatically be given the same retention schedule as the academic parent container folder, in addition to the retention schedule that may apply further up the tree. That can be at the Marge Simpson level, that can be at the student records level, and however we like to push that inheritance downwards. Showing off a bit around search. If I go into the students area here and I want to search for English 101, I could see, let's go one level deeper there. Let's go into Bart's file. We search English 101. We can see we have one hit, which happens to be that transcript we were showing previously. And inside of this transcript, you can see English 101 right here, just below the 2012-2013 area. So that full text search actually pulls that information out of the file. What that aids you with later is legal discovery. That also aids you with, you don't need to tag every single thing you put in the system. Let the search index do its work. So this actual search engine was used with yahoo.com for a number of years when Google and Yahoo were kind of, battling for the search wars there on the web. OpenText actually licensed that technology to Yahoo. So going through from this side of things, what we're able to do going forward is actually go into the legal side of things, and I'm just going to search for something really boring like the word status so we can pull back some search results. We're able to go in here and actually do legal holds on this information. So if we do want to search and kind of scour the whole system and find particular information, we can actually go through, grab this information, put this on a legal hold, and actually export that information, the contents, the metadata, a transmittal document with it that can go out to outside counsel. Jumping into a few records things, I just want to show some of the records disposition features here, because I imagine maybe even a show of hands, how many are true records managers on the line today? If you can just hit the raise hand button in Teams for me. Not too many today. I'll show it anyway. So I'm going to just jump into a different view here and actually show off one of the retention schedules. In the retention schedule side of things,
we had a couple hands raised there, so we got a
did
couple.
we? I must have missed them on the scroll down. I only see about the top 10 or so. Thanks, Jared.
Yeah.
As we go through the records management side, we're able to do things like declare permanent records or do things like calculating dates on records. So for this example, I've actually went through and set up a disposition search just tied to permanent records, which in reality doesn't make a whole ton of sense. But I do want to show off some of the actual other factors in records management that aren't about destroying the record. We can actually progress the record through different stages in the system. So we can say if the student is now an inactive student, but we do need to keep that record permanently, and we're going to do that in a digital fashion, we can do something like finalize the record. That can remove permissions from being changed. That can do things like make it a PDFA. So if it was a Word document or pictures, we can harden that and make it a PDFA. And for the IT guys in the room, we can even go through and update the storage provider. So if we are storing this on maybe faster disk and we want to move this, archival stuff to slower disk, we're able to do that. We can even start to put this stuff on, old SCSI drives if you like. So we're able to use the records management engine, not just for the traditional, file room like records use cases of, I know it's ready for destruction, I shred, or I know it's ready for destruction, I delete. We can finalize the record to remove permissions. We can update the storage provider. We can even go through and purge previous versions. So if I have 10 versions of a transcript from the same year and we only need the latest version, we can perform a purge version as well. There's a number of different components there that we're able to, twist the system to make it very lightweight and efficient on the content volume, but still comply with all the regulations required to keep those records long-term. For the records managers, you can do all this on a scheduled basis. So this screen you're seeing is the disposition search. This is essentially saying what is eligible for the next stage in records. And I can manually put in my date ranges, or I can schedule this out and have this run as a report every month for me. And it will put that into approvals if department heads or anybody in the office has to go through and okay the destruction or the inactive status on a new record. All that can be done scheduled wise. I have quite a bit of backgrounds in records management from that side of things, just working in the public sector. And the goal of these types of projects, if they're records related, is to actually have the records manager almost with their feet up on the desk at the end of the month where this search runs and sends it out for approvals. And you're simply, almost quarterbacking the process instead of, grinding through every single file all the time. All that work is done up front in these kinds of situations where we're using workspace and we're pre-classifying things as according to our retention schedule. So I'll pause there for now. I'll open it up for questions. We do have about 5 minutes left or so. I want to be cautious of everybody's time.
Jordan, Jared, just one question. I'm wondering if you could maybe talk about how records management policies can be applied when ingesting, a large batch of documents, maybe, transcripts for several different students, or something to that effect.
Yeah, I can answer that one, Rachel. So as we're doing a migration, say we're bringing in a large batch, whether that's one time or a nightly or an annual thing, we set the retention schedule up in advance, and as documents are placed in those locations, it'll automatically inherit that schedule. So the magic is all done upfront in the preparation. The downstream positive impact is when you move in all that content, it is all classified automatically and will show up in the disposition side of the retention schedule.
Great, thank you.
So yeah, if there's no other questions, we'd like to, your time is valuable, so we'll let you get about your day, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Take care.
Take care.